Alrighty. It's time to start the teardown on this thing. So the first steps are going to be just getting the 3 sensors off, tail housing, then we're going to flip it over, take the pan off, start getting parts out of the valve body, get the valve body off, and pretty much it for the beginning. So get the MPLS sensor loose, get TSS sensor loose, and the OSS. And always make life as easy as possible. Another hot tip is Ziplocs. Keep track of everything. I really don't need them because everything pretty much goes back one way, but it's still nice not to have to hunt things down, so I still use them. That's good. A lot of times when you have a hard parts failure, like when the direct drum strips, you'll see metal hanging off the magnets on the sensors. And I don't see any metal, so hopefully we don't need to do any hard parts. Sure would be nice. That's also a good sign for the pump too. Come on, bro. Yeah, no metal on there. Almost looks like there was a seal put on this too. I think they were hunting down that leak maybe. The seal's not very flat, it's nice and round. You saw how hard it was to pull it out. That's it for sensors. And something else I noticed, which is really annoying, and might explain all this stupid RTV, is they left this bolt and this bolt out. And those are studded bolts for the oxygen sensor mounting brackets. So I don't know what happened there, but whatever happened, it ain't no good. Just crack these loose, hopefully. Jeez, yep. This definitely got done at a trans shop. Everything's gonna be over torqued. That hard to break. Good Lord. I'll make sure that silicone seals. Jerks. Probably have to use some extension housing bolts off of my old 98 one. I'm sure I can source them at the junkyard. Now, this is what's going to be a pain. It's not going to hammer this thing off with this shaft in here. What jerks, man. There we go. This is touch. Crap. Alright. the new bushing. Although, I'll show this later, but it does look like that's probably from when I hammered it off. Hit this line, it's got a couple of links in it, but nobody cares. I got a new one, and it's the right one, not the wrong one. This doesn't matter if you leave it on or not. All this is a plug that when this thing gets shipped, it plugs the rear seat. And you just slide the shaft on, this thing just slides right in and remains in there for the life of the transmission unless somebody gets in there and takes it out. I tend to just put them back in, or even put them on the way they are at the factory and seal the hole. But usually, these aren't getting shipped, they're not going to sit terribly long, so I don't worry about it too much. So, okay. Now, we hope and pray not to make a huge mess. But we'll see. Let's see how much fluid comes out of this thing. Painted pan. Neato. There's some fluid. Favorite stuff in the whole wide world. So, I guess I should move the camera so you can see the valve body. Alright, hopefully we'll be able to see everything. I'll double check once I finish this first part that you guys can see this stuff. But I think this part's pretty obvious what I'm doing. Taking the gosh dang pan off. Yeah, this thing is leaking out the pan. No wonder. Good thing he went to a trans shop. Really took care of him. Replaced the tail housing with the wrong tail housing. Didn't put a gasket on, just siliconed it. Because I guess gaskets are what, really hard to come by, or not? Oh, I don't remember loosening that one. Might have been loose already. Whatever. That's why I always cringe when somebody says, I'm going to take it to a trans shop. Just in case. Because I want it done right the first time. Good luck. It's hard to know if a trans shop is really any good or not. Where'd my Ziplocs go? These are all dirty. I'll probably clean them up before they go back in so I don't ruin any threads. Off you come. These jerks. They replaced the OEM metal core gasket with this piece of trash. These suck. The OEM gasket is great and you can reuse it over and over and over again. I may source an OEM gasket for this. I do not like those at all. Not at all. This bad boy needs to come out. Now, you want to be sort of careful with this. It can break, but I've never broken a clip on these. It just seems to pop right off without a problem. There's that bad boy, and all this stuff I'm putting right into the pan. Make sure the filter can come out of the pan. That needs to go in the trash. All right, there you go. The fun part. Crack all these loose. still recording. So I got this stupid thing. Oh no, it's not in my pocket. I thought I had the clicker in my pocket. That bolt was kind of loose. We're going to see some fluid when this comes off, I can tell already. It holds a lot of fluid between it and the case. Who else did I touch here? Pretty sure I got them all. Not this one. All right. Now, something to remember. It's easy to remember where these bolts go. Shorter ones are down here on the case of the valve body. Longer 8mm bolts are here on top, and then you have this one oddball 10mm that just holds the TCC solenoid in place. Get control there, man. Get grip. Here's your rooster comb spring, which is odd. These usually, oh no, this is the right one. Okay, I was gonna say, this looks like the older style, but I was wrong. Okay, and that should be all, oop, one more. That is all the shorter bolts. I'll stick the rooster comb spring right here. Ziploc with these bolts. And it's probably not a bad idea to just go ahead, pop this little 10mm in that same bag. It's going to be impossible to confuse them with the rest, obviously. Tiny little bugger. Okay. See if I got all of these loose. Did. And this is the EPC solenoid bracket, keeps it from backing out. That'll go in with these bolts as well. So those bolts will go in the same time that bracket does. So now when I do one big step, I just grab the bag, it's all there. All right, and then these can come out. We'll replace the seals on these. I do see, thought I saw a little bit of metal shaving on this. You'll see it on this too, because this is magnetic. The little metal shavings will stick to it. And here goes your TCC. Bye-bye. Now, this is where you hope and pray you do not get a fluid bath. You probably will. Usually do. Dang. That came off nice. With that gasket, that shouldn't be sticking there. This thing ain't hot. That is a good sign that this thing was run hot when it sticks to the body like that. Or I should say the case. I think you go over there. I don't like seeing this. This is not, oh my God. This is going to be miserable to scrape off, but it'll have to be done. This is the kind of crap that happens when you overheat your transmission. And I'll have to make sure after the fact that all this little crap comes out. Because otherwise it's going to go right into the filter, hopefully, and not into any other parts. Not to mention, these little channels in here, they go through the valve body, up through the pump and all that, and you don't want any of this stuff going up into the pump. This is going to be a pain, but I just need to forget about this for now and grab a razor. I probably won't even film that because that's just boring. Let's just see that garbage. Pretty sure you can figure out how to scrape a gasket. What a pain. That's just miserable. And the only reason I'm still doing this on the floor is because you have to compress these to get the snap rings out. And I really don't, I got a cheap Harbor Freight little workbench. I don't like to press down on it. It's already shady enough putting the transmission on it, but whatever. All right, let's start with that accumulator. Pretty much grab whatever you can that you can push down on it with. I have a tool made that will fit, once you take the pump out, the pump bolts can fit here, and you can span the tool across this and push down on it. Well, I haven't pulled the pump yet, and I found that pushing it down by hand really isn't that hard, so no big deal. Although the position of the snap ring isn't exactly good. Let's see if we can rotate this around a wee bit. Let me get this out of the way. I can never seem to remember the size of this nut. Probably none of these, knowing my luck. It's okay to be a little bit oversized on it. That's much tighter. Perfect. And screwdriver. Or any other metal thing. Laid all this stuff out. Where'd it go? There it is. Alright, so we have to turn this way, which means we need to go this way. Need a bigger screwdriver. That's what it's all about, folks. Preparation. Being ready for anything. Looking for tools once you've started. That's what it's all about. Dang it! What would work is a tire iron too. That's missing. Heck yeah. God dang it. Huh. I'm good. Well, maybe I should pause for a minute. Tool. Alright, had to pause for a minute so I could find something hefty enough to hold this. And I did. So you just gotta crank this back and crank that forward. That's it. Little nut comes off. Very nice. Although that nut won't come all the way off until we take the roll pin out, which I find vice grips actually work really well for. But once again, you gotta know where the hell they are. All right, get some pliers. Put some vice grips with a nice thin nose. Gets in there pretty good. See, it's hard to rotate with these larger pliers. That's coming. All right, now this roll pin, I'm telling you right now, put it in its own bag. Just put it in its own bag. Because if you put it in with these parts and you end up in a hurry, you'll dump them all out, start putting stuff in, and say, now where in the world did that roll pin go? And it'll be in a crack in your garage floor somewhere, and you'll spend another 24 hours looking for that stupid thing. So it gets its own bag. Cool. And that's the EBC solenoid. I'm going out. Feels look okay, but usually replace all those. Accumulator cover. Now these, I tend to put in the valve body, or not the valve body, the pan, and try to organize them the way they come out. So I remember how they go back in, but it's just easier to have them organized. Pair of needle nose, go out. Out comes that accumulator. It's the 2 to 3. And we were on this one. And what I wanted to do is get this turned around where I can access it with my right hand, mostly so I don't have to move the camera now that I think about it. Once I can get to it with my right hand, I'll press it. Now what do I do with that little thingy? I hate sitting down and doing stuff. Everything you need right under your butt. Pliers on, press down. Why aren't you coming out, jerk? Wow, this is unusual. Usually it's pretty easy. Stuck in there. There we go. Comes out. Springs come out. Put them in order. Like this. Lay it in the pan. Just like that. And those. With the springs, lower spring or upper spring, I should say. Trans is upside down, so that can be confusing. Someone says lower and upper spring. Well, remember your transmission's upside down. So this bad boy comes out. I saw some debris in here. It's gone now. But this gets cleaned up, gets a new seal. This bad boy has to come out. This is a bit of a pain here. Usually it's not too terrible, but without compressing it using something, it can be a good bit of a pain. Some leverage on this thing. Might need a smaller screwdriver. Once again, this snap ring is not in the best position for how I'm positioned. How do I want to do this? Maybe rotate around. Put that snap ring in there. A little bit of a thinner screwdriver. That is just a pain that it is over there. Get an edge up on these. Usually come the rest of the way out pretty well. Let's just stick it back in there. I hate this thing. It's not a snap ring you can grab. It's just got these little tabs on it for a flathead or something. It's a world pain to get loose. All right. Reverse servo cover, reverse servo snap ring, reverse servo. It's easier than people knows. And that's weird. That didn't come out because it's got covered in friction poop. Oh, I love look at that. Oh, friction poop. All right. That is sexy. And overdrive. This one has the tightest spring out of all of them. So I don't even try to do that one by hand. What you do, take this nifty little tool and some of your short bar bolts. I need a screwdriver and I need a 13mm wrench. Should have this ready. First torque line, 14, 12, 13. All right. These. And this, I should have used a thicker threaded rod for this, but the reason I say that is it tends to scar this up just a little bit, the back end of the use the longer bolts. It's getting awful fluidy over here. Come on, Betsy. Get in there. Yeah. That's right. I think I need to bring this down a little bit. It's not threading very much, although it's pretty good. Ew. Almost see like put some metal in there. That's not cool. Alright. Yeah, I want to back that out a little bit. So I can get a few more threads on. Last thing you want to do is strip the case. A couple more seconds now. Save you a huge freaking headache later. You really don't want to have to telecoil a transmission case. Alright, so I had classic amateur YouTube hour. Ran out of space on the phone. Anyway, once I had that compressed in there, just a fraction of an inch below this ring, just a fraction of an inch, as long as you got a gap. I just use these long needle nose. They work great. Better than snap ring pliers in my opinion. You just get a nice little grip on that and squeeze it, comes right out. Take it around the tool, bada bing, bada boom, thing comes out. And this is that big old spring that requires you to compress that instead of doing it by hand. So at this point, this gasket, oh my God, what a pain. There's one last thing, I almost forgot it because of this gasket. Little filter. This thing when you're dealing with a transmission upside down, or right side up, I should say, upside down to me, I'm used to seeing them this way, this is going to fall out. And so will this, the 2 to 3 accumulator cover. To get this to stay up in there, you just use a little bit of grease. I have, let's see if I can find it. I use green assembly goo. It's high tack. This stuff is thick. I'll just dip it in this thing, and I'll shove it back in there, and that stuff will hold it in place if it's upside down. I do it whether it's upside down or not, just because, you know, if I rotate it or do something stupid and forget that it's in there, it should stay. Anyway, be mindful of that screen. Gotta go back in that Ziploc. I'm gonna stick it on the shaft here. Just get it right back on. Into the box of stuff. Sometimes, let me see if you can see this. All your parking stuff for park is right here, and it locks the output shaft. You can't really rotate it because it's on the ground. Sometimes you'll be working on this and this pin back here will just fall out and all this stuff comes out. No big deal. Easy enough to put in. It's a real simple assembly. All you gotta do is look at a picture of it. It's pretty obvious how it goes back together, so no big deal. So now we can get it on the table. Okay. We're up on the table. This is actually the fun part because you can do this pretty quick. A lot of parts in here, but it really doesn't take long. Take the innards out. You can see my awesome table setup is working wonders to keep this thing from rotating. That's not sketchy at all. This is safe. We're fine. I think I done did them all. All right. Now I don't mind using a power tool. Oops. Once I've cracked them loose. For the most part, I won't use it going back together. I probably will in some places, but I try to be really careful. Because all these bolts are harder than the case. And like I said, you don't want to strip the case. That just sucks. That would be, come on. Oh, what a jerk bolt. I'll come back to that one. Seriously? All right. I don't know if that's from being run hot or what, but normally those aren't that bad. They got a little bit of yellow Loctite on them from the factory or some sort of thread locker. But it's usually not that bad. You can usually buzz these right out, no problem. That one feels good. This one just feels like crap. Okay, that's better. Hey, that makes me very happy in pants. Right? And there's 2 holes on this that are threaded. This one here, and that one there. You need a bigger bolt. I don't remember the thread size. M10, I don't remember. If I find it, I'll maybe put it down in the description or something, but get plenty of dang old threads on here. Can't say it enough. Don't strip this thing. Just don't. You'll see all this stuff about making a slide hammer attachment and all that. I just get some screws in or get some threads on. Couple wax. And it's actually already out. Something to grab it with. Jackson glue. Set it somewhere. I put it in a perfect spot so I wouldn't forget where it is. I don't know where that spot is. Paper towels work. And okay, see that lifted up. Something that'll give you a good grip on it. Now, it's actually a good sign when it gets stuck like that, means your bushings are probably in good shape. But, get it up. Thing's hot. I'll take a closer look at the bushings there. Alright, so that's your pump. Then intermediate return spring. And I am blown away. This, every single one of these transmissions I've pulled apart, this snap ring was spun off. Every last one of them. At least on 01 and newer. It might have been 04 and newer that it was every one, but I don't think my 98 was spun off, but that thing's usually done. And you replace it with a Sonex ring. There's rust on this return spring. That's weird. It's almost like it had no fluid on it, but how did it get moisture on it? That is freaking weird. I mean, it is at the very top. It sits like this. There's your rust. So maybe it was just moisture evaporating. I don't know, but I ain't never seen that before. That's the first. Another good benefit was the beige ring you saw me pull out. That's just a thrust washer. Sometimes those snap rings will tear those up a little bit when they spin off, and that thing was great. All right, now you have a case silencer that keeps these steels nice and quiet. I think I can just go in my box of parts. I know what it is, and when I see it, I'll know right what I'm looking at. So I don't really need a Ziploc for it necessarily. And here come intermediate frictions. This is your second gear frictions. Now, a lot of people don't realize how transmissions actually work. I see people say stuff like, oh man, I'm gonna get it rebuilt with better gears. The only gears in here is the planetary gear set. It's one piece. And these 4R75s are good to quite a bit of torque. And that's one of the biggest differences. The planetary gear set in the 4R75 is stronger than the 4R70 and can handle 750 Newton meters of torque versus the 4R70's 700. So, these frictions. Anywho, on these, you have at the very bottom the little backing plate, and then it's friction steel, friction steel, friction steel all the way up. When I take these off, those got stacked on the pump. I'll probably show you later. but I stack them the way they come out, in order. I don't need them in order. I do it anyway, it just makes it easier. You could come over and mix all these parts up, put them in any order you want, and I'd still know where they go. No big deal. All right, so, oh, here's the interesting part. They had overdrive issues. So out comes the overdrive band. Let's take a look. I'm hoping that the band is screwed. If the band's not screwed, then something else was going on with overdrive, and I have to figure out what. Come on. Don't be a pain. You know what? Gimme! Boy, I'm off my game with this one. There we go. And it's definitely scarred up. You can tell it's hasn't had a happy life, but it doesn't look like the friction material is really gone, so you might be looking at some valve body stuff. I was really hoping this would be just done, but it's not. So we'll have to look into this a little bit more. I thought this thing was gonna be toast. And yes, it's black, that's fine. The 4R75s had I think it's a high carbon, or I don't remember what it is. The older ones are red. These are like a dark brown to black right out of the factory, so that's not unusual. Now, we are down to our reverse and forward clutch drums. They come out together. All you gotta do, grab that bad boy. We got reverse and forward, and that reverse drum, look at that. That thing's had a heck of a time dealing with overdrive. Ooh, those forward frictions. That's a pretty large gap there. I bet they're pretty worn. They're not completely done, but they're pretty worn. That's a pretty large gap in there. We'll see. We'll see what comes apart. All right, forward clutch hub. And here's, be careful, bearing sticks to the bottom of it all the time. There's a bearing in here, make sure they stay together. I hope you can see all this stuff, but yeah, bearing here, bearing on bottom. But these go in your forward frictions. When they compress, it links the input shaft of the transmission, the thing I pulled out, to this hub. This hub is splined with the sun gear. The sun gear turns the center of the planetary gear. So, once again, like I said, a lot of misconceptions on how these work for people that haven't been inside them. When you shift gears, you are not having gears go in and out of mesh. A better way to describe it is shifting gears is a symphony of clutches releasing and engaging in order to create the next gear. So anyway, so we'll get the intermediate shaft, and then out comes the reverse drive shell. And I hope you can see this. Yeah, it looks like you can. So you have a sun shell, and you have a reverse drive shell. Now both of these technically are sun gears. There's a sun gear on the end of this one, but it's a reverse sun gear. And look what happens when you do this. It does the opposite of the sun gear. So when you drive this and you have the reverse band down here, you hold the carrier still and you turn this, and the output to the ring gear is reverse. So that's the two things you need, is the reverse clutch holds, and then the reverse drum engages the shell. The shell turns, when it turns forward, it's the opposite direction of forward drive. And if you hold the carrier still, which is what the reverse band does, you get reverse out of the tail shaft. This, I've been bit a couple of times. Well, I've been bit once, but it happens all the time. This sun gear here, it'll stick to the shell. You go to pull it out, and it did not this time. You'll go to pull it out. Oh, that's the sun gear bearing came out with it. It's a two-piece bearing. That should go right back on there. Ooh, that seems dark. I guess it's not So anyway, there's your reverse sun gear. So when this turns, and I'll show you on the planetary gear set how this is actually reversed from the forward sun gear. So anyway, this is where you get reversed. Sun gear comes out. Just stick that somewhere, and you want to look at these real close. We'll start to nick over time here in these teeth. This one looks good. I don't see any nicks. A little bit of evidence, maybe heat, but if it rubs off, which yeah, it's just rubbing off, that's just garbage. This actually looks to be in good shape. All right. All right, and now, center support. There's a snap ring in here. It's actually pretty easy to get out. It's not very tight. This is one of the easiest snap rings in the whole transmission. I say that, but now I'm gonna have trouble doing it. That's how it always goes, isn't it? This is easy, man. This is the easiest thing ever. I can't get it. Why don't you come out? It's supposed to be easy. Hey, there you go. Put a screwdriver in the gear train. Planetary gear set, whatever, okay. Snap ring on these. You'll be missing a lip here because there's a TSS sensor pokes through the case. On the older ones, it came out farther and had another upturn. So these can only go in one way. I mean, it's possible to stick it in several ways, but there's only one way you can put it back and still have the TSS work. Now, should be another, I see it. There is another case silencer. And this is the center support here. Ooh. There we go. Of course, that is now in the planetary gear set, right where we want it. I mean, it's where everybody wants their case silencer rings, is in the planetary gear set. It's a nice upgrade. That can go in my box. No pun intended. And now the center, center support and planetary gear set can come out as a unit. These two together. We'll go set these aside. I heard some noise from it, but I think that was another part sitting there. Okay, and now direct drum. Hopefully I don't cut the crap out of my finger like I usually do. I didn't. Direct drum came out. Yeah, it was just the sound of a snap ring laying on the reverse drive shell. And usually this will protest. Try to remove that other stuff before. This might need to be replaced. Yeah, we're running a little thin around here. This might need a reverse band. Yeah, that thing's down to the bottom. And they always look fine up here. It's right here where it applies, where it squeezes. That's where it wears out. So just because the rest of it looks fine doesn't mean it's fine, because you want this to be nice and fresh. So it's probably going to, actually, I'm not going to say probably needs a reverse band. I'm going to put one in, but if you put that one back in, it'd probably work. But it's not a good idea, dude. Now this is odd. This bearing should have, might need to replace this one. Wow. Some of these needles look out of place. This one's short. Two of them there are short. So probably gonna have to get, that doesn't, yeah, I don't think that's right. We'll see. Yeah, some of them are coming in, never mind. I've just never actually had one of these open. This thing should have been a one piece. So we're gonna look at the bottom of the direct drum. Yep, there she is. Final race. Tough race. Yeah, this thing, all right. I'm gonna replace this. I don't know if this is normal in any of the transmissions, but these usually don't just separate like that. This thing should be one piece, and when you pull on it, you should be able to make a gap, but it shouldn't just easily come apart like that. That doesn't seem right. This has got to be replaced. Maybe someone will tell me it's normal and some of the transmissions have that, but I ain't never seen it, so. So that's getting done. And the last little bit. And we've got the insides out. Grab the shaft at the bottom, just like you do at home. And out comes ring gear output shaft. So the more I think about it, which I don't know how I got any thoughts in while I was doing that, I wonder if this thing being run hot like that, low on fluid, when I take that valve body apart, I might find some excessive wear on some of those valves. And it's maybe the first one I've got to do the, oh my God, are you, good Lord. Ugh. These are always easy. Not this time. No sirree, Bob, this ain't easy. I have never had to scrape one of these off. This thing got hot. This transmission did not have a good time. Very sad transmission. Very sad. Okay, bearing came out fine. That's the hub to case bearing. That one feels good. I feel great. All right, cool, man. That thing's hit me. Now we just got a case. We got a case with nothing in it. Now it's super light, easy to carry, portable. Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. This is a snap ring, just serves as a shelf for the reverse band. So it's not very, it's super easy to get in, just sits in there and keeps the reverse band from going too far down. So that's just for assembly, but it goes back in. So that's it. I'm gonna go to Universal Studios and ride some roller coasters and stuff. I'm done for today.